Good afternoon to you. Mark Stout with HurricaneTrack.com here. It is Friday the 26th of August 2022, and you have stumbled across the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. So good to have you. I appreciate it. You know, it was a year ago today that I was on my way to Louisiana to meet up with my colleagues as we would tackle Hurricane Ida. Nothing out there like that right now, but we all know, we know you do it. We know you look at the computer models beyond 5 days, and you have seen, depending on the run, especially of the GFS, that there could be some trouble in the Gulf. And that's a good way to kind of pivot into the title card here. And what does this mean, phantom versus real? We're going to talk about that and much more in today's update. All right, let's get rid of me. I'll come back in a minute. Well, my voice is still here. All right, in the Eastern Caribbean, this is the area that has generated a lot of talk out there on social media. I'll address that in just a moment. And then this area, too, also becoming more interesting. And it's funny because there's one X, but I'm telling you, there's like a large area out here that covers a much larger region that is actually very interesting for a number of reasons. Moving this out just to show you to the 5-day time frame. There you go. A sign that things might change. And if they do, and they do it before the end of August, we won't get a big fat zero for ACE or name storms or anything like that. Right now, August is a shutout, so will one of these systems develop as a name storm before the end of the month? If so, that'll keep us from going 0, 0, 0, a very rare thing. A lot of stories and news articles and just people writing about it, that the season has been very slow up to this point. A lot of speculation as to why. We're not going to go into that much today, but I think things are going to be changing. I think it's more of a delayed, not denied situation, and I have been thinking that for a while. There just wasn't enough evidence to say nothing's going to happen this season. Are we going to still end up with 15 to 20 name storms? Probably not, but I still think we're going to have a very busy season, and what does form could be pretty intense because of the overall setup. All right, we'll get into that more in detail as well. That's what this video is for. It's longer. I go into more detail on things, and people seem to like it. So here we are. All right, satellite animation this afternoon. This really helps me to bring out a couple of important points. Look at all the areas of thunderstorm activity. We have here our little frontal boundary, some stuff in the Southwest Gulf, Eastern Pacific, off the coast of South America, or even over the landmass itself, a little bit over the Yucatan, down here, 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 and here. You get the idea? Why? Why are we seeing that? It's part of the MJO. That puzzle piece is there. The Madden-Julian oscillation at 200 millibars way up in the atmosphere. It was forecast to move into the Atlantic and make things more favorable. That has happened. Think of it like this. I thought of a good analogy here. It's like a puzzle, and you're almost done, and the cat jumps on the table and knocks off a few pieces, and you just can't find them. You were almost there. You almost had that 1,000-piece puzzle finished, and the darn cat made 3 or 4 of them vanish somewhere on the floor, went under a doormat or something. Who knows, right? Something slid under the fridge. You're missing the pieces. You can't find them. It's very frustrating. That is kind of like what's been happening in the Atlantic. A lot of the pieces of the puzzle to give us a very busy season are in place. They've been in place for weeks, if not months, but a few of those pieces are missing. And that's the part where people are kind of scratching their heads. Is it the volcano from earlier this year? Is it the drought and the extreme warmth in Europe? Is it this? Is it that? Is it man-made whatever? And you get your kooky stuff as well. Again, we're not going to go into that right now because we're still in the hurricane season. It's not over yet. We could still have a very busy September and October. Believe me, a lot can happen over the next couple of weeks. And if you saw today's GFS, which you probably did because I know you guys, you can see it's coming, probably. Certainly the signs are there. My job is to put it in to context and hopefully explain to you what you're looking at and just make it all fit together, so to speak. All right, moving along. The vorticity signature. I showed you the animation of the clouds. What's going on underneath? A little bit of energy right there. A little bit more here in the Eastern Caribbean. That's the area that we will be watching that'll head over into this direction. And I've got a pretty good stretch coming up here where I have to explain a big part of what's happening over here in a few days. I think you're going to appreciate that. And then out here, look at all of that energy. Yes, that is a very complex setup. Reminds me a lot of what we see in the Western Pacific sometimes. And I think this will eventually go on to try to develop. It's just going to take some time. First, let's talk about phantom in the modeling, that the model generates something that's just not going to be there, versus real. And what did that title card today mean? So a couple of very specific facts here. All right. Hurricanes don't just form out of nothing. They have to have a seedling to get them started. We already know about all the other ingredients: warm water below, the upper ocean heat content, a moist atmosphere, light winds at all levels, where there's no real strong directional shear. The air in the atmosphere has to be pretty uniform so that you get these vertical hot towers, as they're called, of deep thunderstorms, or convection. But before any of that matters, you have to have something to set it off. You have to have a seedling, and these seedlings can be detected as vorticity. We can see that. I showed you on the satellite shot there. That was the analysis. This is the model. All right? So we're looking for areas of the origin, the seedling. Where might that be? This is one of those areas. Let's use black here so that it stands out better. This is one of those areas potentially. This is part of the energy that came off of South America, believe it or not, helping the air to kind of pile up over here. And then now we have some vorticity, a little bit of a seedling. It's not particularly strong, but it is there. And there's just an ever so slight curvature to these wind flags through here, just a little bit of a perturbation, as we call it, a disturbance, just a very minor seedling. So it is there. All right, and that's very important. So let's move this out. This is the analysis, by the way. 12Z this morning, 850 millibars of the atmosphere, about 5,000 feet up, and it's that cyclonic vorticity. So moving ahead 24 hours, still there. A little bit more prevalent now, just ever so slightly by tomorrow morning. Okay, the source region still there. What about 48 hours? Yep, still there. 72. Now things start to get more interesting. What is happening is the air is generally starting to pile up over here in the Western Caribbean. And that brings me to my next lesson. Surface convergence. The air has to come together down at the surface, roughly. Not like right at the ocean surface, but you get the idea. It has to converge and come together, and then it can go up. It can rise. When the air is spreading out at the surface or diverging, that doesn't work. You don't get convection that way. In fact, you can see that on satellite animations. When you see a big thunderstorm go up, it'll collapse, and then you get this big outflow boundary, and people post videos of this all the time, little GIF animations on Twitter especially, of a big outflow boundary out over the ocean somewhere from a tropical thunderstorm. That is when it collapses and the air is spreading out at the surface, diverging. What I'm seeing here is at 72 hours, the air is starting to pile up in the Western Caribbean. It's converging. It's starting to come together. And that is important because you have that and just a little bit of that signature of the vorticity down there, some energy. That's 3 days out. 96 hours out, by day 4, it gets a lot more interesting. The air continues to kind of pile up over here. You've got this general cyclonic turning in the atmosphere, more of this vorticity showing up, energy there, 4 days out. Now, is the GFS right about this, that that's what's going to happen, or is it just kind of manufacturing this because of a flaw in the model? Convective feedback, not handling the physics very well. It is very, very complicated. Now, I do not have next to me the people or the lead programmer that works on the GFS. That would be nice. They could just snap my fingers and there he, she, they, them, it's a bunch of people are. That'd be great to get their input. What are we seeing here? Why are we seeing it? So the simple thing is, in 4 days, let's look and see, is this happening? Is there more cloud cover? Because that's what that would translate to. All that extra vorticity down there, there should be some cloud cover, showers and thunderstorms, deeper convection. The Hurricane Center would definitely have probably a high probability of development at that time. And we can verify, is it phantom or is it real? Now, I don't know the answer today. And there's a lot of different people that could speculate on it. And, sometimes they're right. Sometimes I think they have a bias, positive or negative. I don't know. But there is the potential that the GFS is overdoing it. Sometimes that happens, and the energy will just go into Central America here, kind of die away, or end up in the Eastern Pacific, where it goes on to develop there. I'm just saying, sometimes it can be a phantom convective feedback and other sort of mechanical issue within the model. So before you just go and post what happens, and I'm going to show you as we go through time what eventually happens. There's 108, there's day 5, now it's starting to come together. Definitely a sharp area of low pressure developing in there, this tropical feature, whatever, the convergence is there, the air's piling up, you got your vorticity, and it's off to the races. So that, you just run this out into time, look what happens. It goes in, makes landfall as a powerful hurricane in northern Mexico. But how did we get there? Is the source even going to happen? So to go from where we are now, roughly, right here, where there's not much out there, over here to what happens towards the end, right here, that's a big stretch. There's a lot that can happen, and the model is known to have some feedback issues over here, false positives issue, if you will. Is this one of those times? I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you. I really would. And there's people that have their opinions about it. Nah, this is just the model doing what it does. But then I start to wonder, well, if that's wrong, why isn't everything else wrong? And that goes into a whole other thing. Again, if I could just get the GFS development team in here, we could all discuss it. That would be pretty fascinating, wouldn't it? But it is climatologically favorable, this area. There is a seedling out there. The ensembles are also showing it to one degree or another. The GFS operational is not alone. There is some support. So regarding this system in the Northwest Caribbean and eventually into the Gulf, and yes, sometimes it goes into near Houston, sometimes it's Louisiana, sometimes it's northern Mexico, whatever. This is why you can't just go and stick those 10, 12-day forecasts, snapshots, and just leave them. It scares people. They don't know what they're looking at, especially people that have been through so much these last few years, and particularly in Louisiana. Speaking of the 1-year anniversary of Ida. So, I'm just being honest here. I don't know if this is reality, if this is really going to happen. That's what we do. We look at it each and every day, and we'll see. But I look at these benchmarks. Okay, let's see what happens at day 3 and then day 4. And if it verifies, there it is, then we just take it a day at the time. All right, so there's that. Maybe the GFS is creating something that's not going to be there. Now, let's go to this. Very interesting, as he says, a discussion with an interesting tweet here from Philippe Papin down at the National Hurricane Center, too. He works there. And like I mentioned, I think yesterday, I met Philippe at the National Hurricane Conference in Orlando this past April. Very approachable, really nice guy, and just as smart as you can imagine. Very lucky we are to have him at the Hurricane Center. So, what is Philippe talking about? Well, look at this. This is what I was saying earlier. It's just this massive envelope of energy sitting out here. And you had a couple of areas of vorticity, what we call vort maxes, and then just the larger cyclonic gyre, if you will. It's just a big mess. And with that, some dry air up to the north. It's just very, very complicated. So what's going to happen? Well, the bottom line from Philippe's tweet, it may take several days to consolidate. So instead of just one area, let's see, I want to go to, one area sitting out here, like just right here. Let's ignore this for a second. If it was just one area of vorticity in here, and I'll just paint it in a little bit. Let me add some orange to it and just play with it some. Let's say that we were just looking at this right here. And that was all there was, just one singular area. That thing would just be off to the races, and we could track it. But there's not. There's this whole big sort of fried egg looking thing out here of energy, and it covers a large area. And the model, the computer model, is trying to figure it out, and it's difficult. But it's interesting because, generally speaking, the euro, as we go each 24 hours here, does finally consolidate this. This is 24 hours out, tomorrow morning, 48. It brings it together in about 2 days' time, and then all that energy kind of catches up. So by day 3, Monday, we may have the developing tropical depression that we've sort of been looking for. Not in a positive way. I'm just saying, and anticipating. Like, where are these hurricanes and tropical storms? This just might be the sign. And this is only 3 days out from a very reliable, over history, Euro. Now, it's had its problems in terms of phantoms. Remember back in June or July, whatever it was, that we had Bonnie. The Euro was like, yep, main development region is alive and well. Early in the season, it developed Bonnie. All of its ensemble members did. And the GFS said, no, we're going to wait until near Central America. And the GFS was right. It's just weird how this works. Now, though, we are climatologically in a more favorable time period. The Madden-Julian oscillation is on our side. The Atlantic is very warm. All these other puzzle pieces that I was telling you about are there, and maybe this is that missing piece, that the energy comes together. The Euro is seeing that by day 3 here, and what do? You get everything consolidating, still moving a little slow, which is very odd, just part of this massive area. I mean, look at this, just a huge area of energy competing, the model trying to resolve it with its physics and its mathematics. I mean, it's pretty remarkable if you think about it. But we want to know. We're a society where we're instant gratification sort of triggered. We want to know now. And we're going to have to wait, like Philippe said. Anyway, this is day 4, and by day 5, yes, it starts to show up a lot better. There is another one there to the north and west of the Cabo Verde Islands. But yeah, we'll watch this closely. The pattern is such that if anything does get going out here, it has a pretty good path towards the west and west-northwest with time beyond the 5-day time frame. And yes, I know you guys have already seen it. You know exactly what happens. We'll see. First, let's see if it develops as the Euro is indicating. Maybe this is phantom versus reality. But it's an interesting tweet there from Philippe that it is a complicated pattern. We'll see what becomes of it. But I'm saying that, really, this could be finally the sign that we've been anticipating. And I want to make sure you understand when I say finally that you know what I mean by that. That we've been thinking the things were going to change. Now it looks like they are. And on one hand, you want the forecasts to be accurate so that you can believe them. Obviously, it's at the peril that we have hurricanes impact people. That part we don't want, but we have no control over that, despite what you read on the internet. Anyway, this is what it looks like about 5 days out. Very interesting as we head into the first part of September, because, hey, this is still August. That's August 31st, and if that is a tropical storm and it has a name, or maybe even that one does, wouldn't that be something if we had 2 of them, Danielle and Earl, and it's still August 31st, and we don't end August being shut out. We shall see. Also, real quick, I think this is interesting, and I think you would agree with me. This is the Euro MJO analysis and forecast. I'm going to use, we use blue here. This is where we are currently, so it is in a favorable state right now, and then the ensemble mean digs it back into the null phase. No discernible MJO activity, but yes, there's a few of these members that go over here, but a lot more of them are now kind of hinting that maybe this just goes right on back over to phase 8, which would be still fairly favorable for the Western Hemisphere. And another way to look at it, it does not just scream over here towards phases 5 and 6, eventually favoring the Western Pacific. That gets us into September, and when you add this element, puzzle pieces. That's what the title card should have said. Not phantom versus reality, but puzzle pieces. When you add that to this, that the main development region continues to warm up, and everything else is warmer than it should be, the La Nina continues to hold strong. Yes, I firmly believe that September and October have the potential to be very, very busy once things do get started. All right? All right. So, there you have it. Nice and long. Hopefully you understood everything. I love the comments, the questions, and people's theories that they post. So keep those coming. And to do that, of course, subscribe to the channel. I think YouTube has it now. You can't comment unless you subscribe. So if you want to join in the conversation, subscribe, set the channel into motion there, get things to grow for us, and share the video. Like and share with your friends, your family, your colleagues, wherever. It doesn't matter. Just get it out there. I try to put some info like what I would look at. Like if we were just sitting here in my house chatting, this is what we would all go over, looking at the computer together. That's what I do, and you're my audience, and I try to just show you what I would look at, even if it was just me. So hopefully you learned something today. A lot of stuff to watch for sure as we go through the weekend and then eventually start to run out the clock on the month of August. Now, this weekend I'm going to be traveling down to Florida. I'm going to go to the East Coast there near Cape Canaveral to see the hopeful launch on Monday of Artemis 1. One of our good friends and colleagues has hooked me up with a parking pass down there on the jetty. Got to get there real early. So I'm going to do that on Monday. And if it launches, great. We'll see it, and it'll be a big part of history. And then I'll talk about, Monday might just be one of these days where I'm just basically invisible, except for social media, because it's going to take up a lot of time. And then the traffic getting out of there. But we'll see. So there might not be an update Monday, believe it or not. But it's for good reason. That is a significant event in our space history if all goes well with Artemis 1. But that's coming up on Monday. But between now and then, tomorrow, and of course on Sunday, I will be back and we'll talk about what's going on each morning with the What's Up in the Tropics segment. And then probably at least Sunday, a hurricane outlook and discussion. We'll figure it out. All right? All right, that is it from me. Let me get this online for you. Have a great rest of your Friday. I am Mark Sudduth for Hurricane Track. I'll talk to you again several times throughout the weekend ahead.